So Becky, where do we start? It's been probably the biggest year ever for dogs in Ireland, hasn't it?
Definitely. We called 2020 the year of the dog. I mean, it was dogs or sea swimming. That's what everyone was talking about as their way to cope with lockdown. People looking for a bit of company, a way to get out, a way to walk. Totally understandable. And the other thing is all these people who wanted a dog for ages and ages, but perhaps the one or two adults in the house were working full time and just couldn't have a dog at home. Now it's their opportunity. So we have no actual dog population data, but the information we sort of off the street is, I'd say dog ownership has gone up probably about 3 times what it was before lockdown. Yeah.
That's astonishing. It's interesting because I remember a few years ago, there was on a Claiborne live show, there was a discussion about rescue dogs and all this sort of stuff. And there are people saying people shouldn't buy any dogs until all the rescues in the country are completely empty. Well, we've actually probably got to that stage just about now, haven't we?
No,
nearly.
Nearly. There's not the same supply of rescue dogs. I think the thing is, it's very nice to say you should always go for a rescue dog first, adopt, don't shop. Not always going to be suitable for people, particularly with small children, because often a rescue dog, it's got a little bit of history. Sometimes we don't know that history, so there could be a bit of anxiety or, things that maybe small children are just not going to be able to have the patience for. Maybe you can't cuddle this dog for a little while, things like that. So, we're a bit more pragmatic at Dogs Trust. We'd love to say adopt, don't shop. It's not always the most suitable option, but obviously, rescuing a dog is a wonderful thing to do. I mean, you just want to see the dogs. They literally, if they could open their mouths and say thank you, they do it with every ounce of their being. It's such a worthwhile thing to do. And even though, it's a little more effort sometimes when you're adopting a dog slightly older, or maybe it's coming with a little bit of history. I've never heard anyone regret it, to be quite honest. But we do appreciate it's not for everybody.
It amazes me how dogs are so forgiving, how a dog might have a very bad time at the start of their life and might end up in the streets wandering by themselves, yet they still always adore humans. They still always form great bonds with their new owners. And, it's a real testament to the personality of dogs that they can be so forgiving. We can learn a lot from them, can't we?
I know they are the epitome of mindfulness. They're very much in the now. And I always love those cartoons about dogs. Oh, that's my favorite thing. Turn around. That's my favorite thing. Oh, that's my favorite thing. It's whatever's in front of them right now. Something bad happened to a dog. They don't store it up in their brains and wonder how to get back at you for 10 years. Although they will create associations with certain behaviors, don't get me wrong. But yeah, they are pure joy. There's so much love. Anyone who has a dog or is around a dog has experienced that. I know some people have had experiences which have made them frightened. We've lots of advice on our website, dogstrust.ie, if you're a bit nervous of dogs, how to overcome that. But yeah, I love dogs.
I actually think that's one of the reasons why dogs have been so popular during COVID, is because they are so good at reminding us of what's really real. Because everything it's very depressing, really. You don't have any social life. Everything seems unreal. But dogs are here and they're enjoying every moment. If you take them for a walk, they'll remind you of what's real. They remind you that they love running and that the bushes are there to run through and there's lots of scents to sniff. And if you focus on your dog, you kind of get taken away from the angst of the day. But it really is, it's astonishing. If you go out and about, you'll see so many dogs nowadays.
Well, this is the thing. We have bred dogs to be companion animals, so they fit really well into our family and into our lifestyle. And just, they remind us to do something as adults that we don't do a lot of, which is to play.
Yes. Yeah.
And you see a dog, you throw a ball, and just the enthusiasm, the ears flapping, they're running as fast as they possibly can. To take joy in that, it's wonderful. Even if you just stand there and throw the ball, you're going to get the enjoyment as well without having to boot it up and down 100 meters at a time. Because that might be for some people. It's not for me. But
one of the things, Becky, that I love about doing what I do is I keep learning new stuff. And one of the new things I learned recently is that dogs are able to sneeze voluntarily, and dogs actually use sneezing as a way of communicating that they want to play. And I know this instinctively because I've known dogs, and you look at them, and first of all, they do a play bow. And I know what a play bow is when they go down all fours and then jump up. And that, again, is a play signal. But also dogs will often, they go in a play bow and then they'll sneeze. And I always kind of just thought, well, they're just sneezing. But I learned last week that, yes, they use sneezing. They deliberately sneeze because it's a message, it's a body language message from a dog that I want to play. This is fun.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that. I knew about the play bow, but that's great about the sneeze. I sometimes just wondered had they stuck their nose too far into the grass and probably got up. But that's really cool. They communicate with us in so many ways. We just have to learn their language. That's, I think, a really important thing that people often don't realize. That, you know, particularly with trying to train your dog or whatever, you have to find a way to explain it to them. They're pretty good. I don't know about you, but dogs I know tend to understand a couple of words. I don't understand any barks. So I'm starting to think they're more intelligent than us when it comes to communication. They do learn our language.
They are experts at body language. In fact, one of the reasons I think that dogs are so great for children is that they are good at teaching children about body language, because they can't talk to us. And so if a dog is spending time with a child, for the child to get on with the child has to learn what the dog is saying, and they learn that by watching the dog's movements. And the funny thing is that body language is actually universal. If a dog stiffens up and looks awkwardly at you, so do humans. Humans use language as well, but also they kind of get a bit weird. So there's comparisons, all right. And so if you become an expert in dog body language, I think you also will get better at predicting what people are going to do, and that's a great skill to have.
Absolutely. I mean, we all know the wide white eyes, you know, not terribly happy here, I'm a bit scared. But as you say, the pulling away, dogs, the first thing they pull their face away. I don't like this, because not all dogs like to be cuddled. We sometimes forget that. They don't necessarily want arms fully around them. Yeah, they do. When you learn their language, it gets really fascinating, and it's quite adorable. And then sometimes you feel sorry. You see some of these videos going around that people think are funny, and you go, no, that dog is terrified and really not happy with what's going on, and being all trussed up in some outfit and being made to do something, or a child sitting on their back, and you're watching, and all the warning signs that you think that dog's going to bite. So it's a really good thing. There's some really simple information out there on learning your dog's body language, and it keeps everybody safe, and it keeps the dog happy as well. Yeah, so, absolutely.
So Becky, listen, talking about issues affecting dogs at the moment, I saw that one thing that hit the headlines today was in Kilkenny, a litter of puppies was stolen. Puppies were stolen, and I'm reminded of last week. Lady Gaga's dogs were stolen. Her dog Walker was held up at gunpoint, and her dogs were stolen. And so, is dog theft becoming a really big issue in this country?
It's increasing. It's definitely increasing. It's not necessarily at the rates that the media might have you believe, but it's increasing to a level that we would be saying to people to watch out and to absolutely make sure your dog is microchipped, make sure the microchip details are up to date, that it's actually your contact details. That you shouldn't really be letting the dog out of your sight. You know, it should be in a secure garden, or if you're off for a walk, make sure you can actually see it. If you're in a place, you can let it off the lead. Good training in recalling the dog is really important. Make sure it's also, even though it's microchip, it has a collar and a tag, but don't put the dog's name on it. Because dogs are very responsive to someone calling their name. You don't want a stranger knowing their name. Just have the phone number. Another useful tip I've heard is put on the collar if they're neutered. The reality is that they're less valuable in theft terms, because they can't be bred from. If they're neutered. It's also, I mean, neutering is a whole other topic. Obviously, we promote it for dog population and to not have accidental litters, but that could be the thing that keeps your dog safe. And while it's obvious that a male dog is neutered, it's not as obvious with a female. So it might be handy to pop it on the collar.
It's true. That's a good point. Yeah. That's a good point. And what other issues have you been coping with in particular at the moment?
So ignoring the really big issues for a second of the puppy farming going on in Ireland, the battery farming of dogs, we just put that aside for a second. The day-to-day issues that are happening for dogs with people, and as a result often they're ending up with us, this is a very odd point in time for people. They're with the dog an awful lot, and there's a tendency to spoil them. So giving them lots of treats, not necessarily cutting down their meals as a result, and they are getting obese, which is dreadful thing to do to her. We're in total control of the body weight of a dog. Unlike myself, who might have impulse control sometimes over chocolate or whatever. Dogs rely on us. So if a dog is overweight, it's the owner's fault. So people are giving those treats and not cutting down the meals, and it's storing up health problems. But you know way more about that than I do. Things like people mightn't realize the dog needs to go to the vet regularly for a checkup. It's also really good that the dog sometimes goes and you make sure it's a positive experience. It's just a little checkup. You might even do, look in their ears, take the temperature, whatever, but nothing painful. And so that the dog knows that sometimes you go to the vet, it's fine. I come out, I got a treat. Sometimes there's an injection.
That's great, Chip. One of the new trends in the veterinary world is that we've had cat-friendly clinics for quite a while because cats are particularly prone to getting stressed. But one of the latest things is dog-friendly clinics. So clinics that have particular setups designed to be more friendly to dogs. Because, I've seen it for myself. I remember one little Westie in particular that hated going to the vet, and it was always very difficult to manage this dog because he was so terribly aggressive, because he was frightened, really. But what happened with him was he had an injury, he had a wound that had to be on his leg, that had to have redressings done 3 times a week. So for about 3 months, he was coming in 3 times a week. But what happened was, he discovered, actually, it's quite nice going to the vet, because whenever he came, he had lots of people being friendly to him, and he got treats every time. And so by the end of the 3 months, his aggression at the vets had vanished completely. So, I think the message there is that if you have paradoxically, perhaps, if you have a dog that's really bad at the vet, one of the great things you could do is just to visit the vet, even just for a social call, just to go and say, look, there's the building, and here have a treat, and it's not such a bad place, is it? And yeah, a bit more tricky nowadays with COVID, but still something to think about. Listen, Becky, we're actually getting a good number of questions here, so let's just start to rattle through those. I'm going to, we're both a little bit new to this, but what's going to happen is I'm going to click on the question, and it should come up on the screen here. And somebody has just, Lorraine has said, I have a 5.5-year-old female. How would I decide if a rescue would fit? So I presume she means a 5.5-year-old daughter. How would she decide if a rescue would fit? What would you say to that, Becky?
Okay. Well, the starting point would actually be more about your living situation and your experience with dogs and the child's experience with dogs.
Right.
So a rescue is still a possibility. Just because you have a 5-year-old child doesn't rule it out. It's like if you contact Dogs Trust and fill in the application form, we will have someone call you and talk through your exact situation and see, do we have a good chance of matching you with a dog? And sometimes we do have puppies. We don't advertise them because it's very ad hoc if a pregnant female comes in. And we've had 1,400 applications already this year. So sometimes there are puppies and we would look for good homes for those, and they may well have small children in them. It's just, it's not Amazon. We can't just click and have lots of puppies available. So really the advice would be contact a rescue, have the conversation about, they can figure out what kind of dog would suit you or wouldn't suit you, and then you'll get some clear guidance from them as to whether they think they could actually rehome a dog with you or not. So it's more about the general circumstances than the fact that this lady has a 5-year-old child. And
listen, Dogs Trust, do you do home checks, or how does that work? And how does it work in COVID? How does it work in COVID? How do you manage that?
It's all online. We get you with Zoom or Facebook Live or something to walk around. You filled in your form, you sent us your photographs. If we have questions, we ask you, but sometimes we do, particularly if we have some doubts about, is the garden really secure, or how high is the fence or the hedge? We get you to walk around and just show us. Now, we're not looking at your whole home. No, really, we're just looking at what kind of outdoor situation does the dog have? Is there, that's
interesting. I was visiting Cats Protection a couple of years ago in the UK, and they don't do home checks anymore. They do Google Earth checks. So they actually a satellite image of your house, and they see where your house is compared to busy roads and all that sort of stuff to work out if it's suitable for a cat that goes outside. So that's an interesting one. Anyway, we'll go on to the next question here, if that's all right.
Yeah.
And this is from Mags, and she says, what is better, to get an adoption or a breeder? Well, that's a big question, really, isn't it?
It is a big question. Nothing wrong with a breeder as long as they're an ethical, good welfare breeder, and that's the hard thing. It's really hard to find them in Ireland. About the only place we can recommend is petbond.ie, or perhaps your local vet might know somebody who's had a well-bred intentional, or even possibly possibly an accidental litter. Going to a breeder is tough. It's hard to be really sure that you're not buying from a puppy farm. Adopt, we would always say adopt, don't shop. There's a ready-made dog looking for a home. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. We understand that. But be really, really careful if you're going for a pup or for a breeder. Do all the research that you can. Some tips, like if the person's looking for cash, why a cash transaction? Traceability is a big thing. Figure out, like, if the only thing you have is a mobile number, no, you need to think in terms of, but your worst case scenario on, this is a criminal trying to get cash out of me, trying to con me, trying to give me a puppy that's not what I thought it was. Figure out traceability. That, you know, is there an email address? Is there a bank account? Does somebody else know them? That kind of stuff. Really do your homework when going to a breeder. Good breeders will go out of their way to give you the right information, and there'll always be a waiting list for a good breeder. If you can get a puppy like that, if you can click and collect, walk away. They've been bred just for essentially consumer instant demand.
But I think that's a real problem, is that consumers want things instantly. So when somebody decides they want a puppy, you can say to them, well, look, there might be one ready for you in 4 or 5 months. People go, no, we want it now, you know, and that's why they get into difficulty. So really, that's probably perhaps the first message, is just be patient. Be patient.
Yeah, you know, this dog should be with you a good 13 years. You know, can you not wait 3 or 4 months and pick? Please don't pick just one that looks really cute and pretty. Check the breed characteristics. Do they really suit your lifestyle and your family? So just this is part of your family, and you get to choose it really, really carefully. It's not a random lotto, so do your research. Yeah, and the other thing about poor welfare breeding is you're going to end up with big vet costs and possible behavior issues, because the puppy hasn't been socialized. It comes to you, it's terrified, it's never even heard a Hoover. Not that I'd hear much of a Hoover in our house, but anyway, I'm only joking. But household noises, you know, microwaves, kettles, things like that. And I'm sure you're seeing in your veterinary practice the consequences of poor breeding in puppies.
Yes, I mean, I think some studies have been done which show this, that what happens with puppy farm, you'll know this stuff, but it's not widely known. Puppy farm dogs are much more significantly more likely to need to be euthanized somewhere between 1 and 3 years of age because of aggressive behavior. And it's not the dog's fault, but it's because they have such a bad social start in life that they never adapt, and they end up then being very anxious and nervous and then biting, and it's a real big problem. Good question here from Patrick. Would there be many dogs that be rescued in Ireland compared to, let's say, America? How does it compare internationally? Do you know? I have no idea about that.
Yeah, that's a really great question. It utterly depends on the country. We've come a long way in the last 2 decades in Ireland with the concept of adopt, don't shop. Dogs being rescued out of the pound. Depends on the state. In the States, it depends on the wealth of that state and that area. It's very location specific, but as a massive generalization, they're probably not as far along that welfare journey as we have come in Ireland in the last 20 years.
I mean, what's happened in Ireland is astonishing. When I came to Ireland, I'm from Scotland originally. When I came here in 1991, there were like 30,000 dogs being killed every year in Ireland dog pounds because they weren't wanted. 30,000. Last year, there were less than 400. So 30,000 to less than 400. I have to say, Dogs Trust are due a lot of that credit with the nutrient scheme you introduced about 10 to 15 years ago, the discounted nutrient schemes. That made a big difference. But also, all the rescues across Ireland have been working so hard with the local authority dog pounds, rescuing dogs rather than them just being euthanized because it's more convenient. It's really been really great teamwork that's achieved that in this country. It's very impressive, isn't it?
It's absolutely teamwork. There's no doubt about it. I mean, every local authority pound will tell you, they can tell you the network of local rescues that come in and take the dogs, so the dogs don't have to be put to sleep, and they go and they find them homes. So it's been people think that it's a very disparate sort of rescues, but everyone is working. The great thing about dog rescues, everyone's working towards the same goals. So you get a lot of joined up behavior, which is absolutely brilliant. And I think one of the big things is the public really listening to the message, adopt, don't shop.
Yeah,
I think, you know, I know when I was growing up, I'd never heard of it. Yeah. So I realize that was longer than 20 years ago. But
here's a question from Fletchdat. How do I become eligible to rehome? I've been trying for months. I've been contacting lots of places, and they've not been able to. They've not been able to get one. So, what do you say to somebody like that?
Okay, it's interesting he says, how do I become eligible, or how do I get one? So eligible would tell me that has the rescue given some feedback that maybe something about his circumstances is not appropriate for adopting a dog. That's the first thing. Make sure you get feedback is the thing I would say. The other thing is the entire country has wanted a dog for the last 12 months. By the end of last year, we had 8,000 applications. We've had 1,400 already this year. It's a volume issue more than likely. But I would say that, every so often, check back in with the rescues that you have contacted, because I know in Dogs Trust, like for data protection, we can only hold the information for 6 months. That's our policy that we've put in. So if it's gone more than 6 months, you'd need to reapply. And mostly, I would say to people, there just isn't the supply for the demand at the moment. And the other thing, bear in mind, rescues, we're all charities. We don't have gazillions of staff to answer every email and every phone call all the time. We do the best we can. We try to get through it. But if this gentleman, make sure he gets feedback. That's the thing I would say, in case there's some kind of issue with his application. Okay,
that's a good point. Let's rattle on through a few more of these questions, because there's quite a lot here. Here's somebody who says, I did the 99 walk. That's just a statement. That's a good thing. Well done, you. That was brilliant.
Yeah. Dog school is still online and will stay online. It's been so successful in training the owners rather than the dogs, training the owners, train the dogs, that we're going to keep dog school online for the foreseeable future. Well,
that's a great thing. It's one of the great things about COVID, isn't it? That we've all learned, we've been forced to learn more about doing stuff online. And actually, we've discovered that you can do an awful lot really effectively. And it saves travel, it saves stress. It's lots of positives.
It does. I'd encourage everyone to get a little bit of training in dog training. I saw something the other day that literally I haven't gotten out of my head, and I can understand why they did it, but it's just lack of knowledge. So it looked like one of those little fluffy cockapoo type things, very, very cute. I'd say 4 or 5 months old, and the person was trying to get it to walk down some steps, and he was trying in a reasonably appropriate way, and then he got fed up and he picked the dog up by the scruff of the neck, and the dog squealed and squealed and squealed, and all I could think was, can you not hear the pain? But I know, and I've said it to other people, they go, but the mom picks them up like that. And I'm like, but only for the first week or two when the puppies can't walk. You don't do this to a 4 or 5 month old dog. So there's lots of, this is back to our thing about like issues for dogs at the moment. There's a bit of inexperience with dog owners. I would say everyone should do a lesson or two in dog training or dog care, or just, because massive issues coming up going to be separation anxiety. The dogs are so used to us being around all the time that they literally won't have the coping skills when we then have to go out to work for the day. Yes. So I would really encourage people to be working on that now. Give the dog a safe place to go and hide during the day so it can take itself away if it's feeling overstimulated. But also, leaving it alone doesn't just mean while you're in the house. You need to go out of the house and it has no contact with you, and build it up like an hour at a time to about 4 hours. Because that's our biggest fear at Dogs Trust, is when lockdown is over, when people go back to offices, we're going to be inundated with people's dogs that cannot cope. They've got severe anxiety, and it's preventable. This is a completely preventable problem.
That's a really good tip. And dogs are great at learning things gradually. They don't mind gradual change. It's when there's a big sudden change, that's when they get upset.
Yeah.
Let's just see what else we've got here. We have 2 female dogs that we have adopted, and we're looking to get a third. Would you say to get a, I'm sorry, I can't see that.
It says to get another female or male. It's not about male or female. It's about, do the dogs get on with each other?
Right.
And if your females are neutered, it doesn't matter if it's male or female. It's, do they get on with each other?
Right. Yeah. Compatibility, basically. Bit like us humans, really.
That's exactly it.
You've got to get on. It's one of the things I think that's really interesting is that, like, there's definitely chemistry between animals, isn't there? You could have you can have a dog and you're looking for a friend for your dog, and you could try 6 different dogs, and they might dislike 5 of them. The 6th one comes along, immediately they're the best of buddies and they want to play. Like, it's really interesting.
It is lovely to watch them pair up. We had that happen to us recently with 2 dogs that were kennelled together, and they were instantly inseparable. Absolutely. Yeah. To the point we had to try and get to rehome them together. They literally, it was like they fell in love. It was a little love story. We put it out for Valentine's Day. It was so gorgeous.
Listen, here's a good question. Do you have a favourite dog, or a most popular dog, or what's that say? Or the long? I can't read the bottom of those for some reason. Hold on a second.
Do I in Dogs Trust? Do I have a favourite?
Yeah, in Dogs Trust. Is there a favourite? Is there a favourite? Is there a favourite dog?
I'm going to have to answer that from my perspective. I always have a favourite. I don't know why. And I'm always desperate for this dog to be rehomed because that's so happy for me. There's a dog there at the moment, Vinny. He's a collie. He's so affectionate. He just wants cuddles. We tried to get him in a photo shoot for something to run around because he's really active and really clever. And all he wanted to do was cuddle. He's not great with other dogs. He seems to be quite frightened of them.
Okay.
And so there's always, I don't have a particular favourite breed. It could be a lurcher. It could be a collie. It could be something that you have no idea how many mixes are in it. But and not even a personality type, but for some reason, there's always one dog in the centre that I'm absolutely crazy about. And God help the staff whenever I'm in, how's Vinny, or how's Marley, or how's Marley, or how's Peppa Pig. This poor dog came in so fat. So fat.
Really. That must happen quite a lot. So
we called her Peppa Pig, which is but she got rehomed, and she's so svelte and shiny now because
wow. That's lovely to see.
That's lovely. It's gorgeous. There's a website we have on Facebook. There's a Facebook group for people who have adopted or fostered, and people post updates. So the team at Dog Trust get to see what happens.
Oh, that's lovely. That's fantastic. Look, here's another good question. I really want to get a golden retriever, but I want to rescue one instead of buying. Where should I look for one? That's a good question.
It is a good question. I hate to say good luck, because when it comes to rescuing, it's whatever is available in a rescue.
But there are some particular breed rescue societies, aren't there?
Yeah, I haven't seen a golden retriever one.
No,
I've seen ones for greyhounds, huskies.
I know in the UK they have a golden retriever one, and unfortunately the travel between UK and Ireland now has got really very complicated when it comes to dogs. You need to have all sorts of rabies vaccinations, as well as microchips, as well as special worms. It's really quite complex. So I'm not sure in this country if there is a dedicated golden retriever. There may be a need for one, because
I haven't seen it. I mean, occasionally we will get probably an older golden retriever in. Maybe their owner has died or gone into a care home. But it's not that often. A dog like that, if it's well behaved in particular, tends to rehome very quickly within a family or friends.
Yes.
I know it's really good of you to want to adopt, thank you, or to rescue. It's difficult when you have your heart set on a very specific breed. That can be a challenge.
Yes, yeah. Here's another good one. My partner and I both work full-time. Can we still adopt?
Yes, you can. That is the biggest myth going. You would need to have some kind of arrangement in place that the dog is at some point interacting with someone during the day, because we generally say about 4 hours is enough on their own. Because dogs need intellectual stimulation. We want them to be our companion. You can't just abandon them 8 to 10 hours. So whether it's a neighbor that drops in, you're able to pop home, maybe a dog walker. Things like that. Yes, you absolutely can if both people are working full time. But you have to put in a little bit of daycare for them.
Yeah, but that's a great message to get out there.
Yeah.
Here somebody says, we adopted a dog from Dogs Trust, and we also loved Bella T. Did Bella T get a home?
Bella T is with the family right now. She's been with them a couple of weeks. They're seeing how it goes. Bella T was with us quite a while. She was quite particular in the people that she would get along with or not. It's all going well. Fingers crossed she gets adopted. But she's basically in a temporary situation with this lovely couple.
So here's a question from Katrina. I've got 2 dogs from Dogs Trust who are quite old. How often would they recommend that Sorry, can
I can see the question. 2 old dogs, how often do I walk them? Right. They need to get outside every day. Generally,
Right.
say twice a day, but keep it short and small. I mean, normally for any dog, we'd be saying 30 minutes twice a day is what they need. But your dogs are old. You need to get a sense of them and what they need and go at their pace. They might just need a little potter about and a sniff, go to the toilet, that kind of thing, interact with another dog. Generally get them outside twice a day would be the advice. Don't be bringing an old dog on a 20k hike. They'll get sore. They'll get sore joints. You know, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Listen, we're going to rattle off a few really quick questions now because we're running out of time a bit. See if you can answer these quickly. Do you have any Dobermans?
Oh, we had one very recently who just got rehomed. I don't think we have any in at the moment. I don't think so. I know
keep
we
checking.
keep
checking.
Called Zombie. What a name.
Can you explain the Dogs Trust petition, please? I'm not sure what that's about. What's the Dogs Trust petition?
Okay, what that is that it is actually legal to basically battery farm dogs in this country. They're in conditions worse than chickens. And then you can sell the dog online, and there's legislation for traceability, but the ads are not compliant. So you can't tell from an ad, did this dog come from a puppy farm or not? So we're asking people to sign our petition on dogstrust.ie that we can go back to the government and say, look how many people have signed this. This is a really serious issue. Would you please enforce this legislation so that the ads are compliant online? I mean, you couldn't buy a car online without knowing the registration had been checked, or there's compliance checks. There is nothing for dogs. You don't know what you're getting or who it is or where it is from, but the legislation is there. The Department of Agriculture brought out last year. It's brilliant legislation, very well thought through. They need to get their act together and start enforcing it.
Yes, there's lots of other areas where enforcement needs to be done as far when it comes to animal welfare, for sure. Here's a quick one as well. Do you take work experience for transition year at 15 or 16 years of age?
I'm sorry, our insurance won't let us take under 18s. I'm sorry. It's working with dogs, and they can bite, and sorry. At the moment we can't take any volunteers because of lockdown. But I'm very sorry. No under 18s. Sorry. Okay,
another quick one here. We've all said rescue dog and cats, and I would love another young dog. How do we get stuck? I can't read the rest of that. Can you read that again? There?
How do we get vetted in Galway? I'd suggest go to Madra. There's a superb dog rescue in Connemara called Madra.
Madra.ie, isn't it? That's the website.
Yeah.
I'm actually a patron of them, so I back you up on that. They're fabulous rescue. They do great work. And here's another one. Is there any way we can rehome a dog with a 3-year-old son? They've got again. It's that same question again, really, isn't it? They'd like a Staffordshire boxer, but
it's very individual. It's just very individual. It depends on your full situation. It's not as simple as we have a 3-year-old, can we rehome a dog? You possibly could, but if in Dogs Trust, we'd be trying to match you with a very calm dog, one that had probably come from, the owner had to give it up because they were moving house or went into care or something like that. A dog that had more distressed, or we really weren't sure of its history, we would never go home with a small child, because we just don't know. We've no idea what has happened to it.
Yes, yeah, very good. Doreen wants to know, is the dog trainer working now?
Is the dog trainer?
Is your dog trainer at Dogs Trust? Our dog school
is available. Yes.
All online now. That's what you were saying.
It is
all online.
Yeah. If you go on the website, you can find all the details, and you can pop in an email, and they can get back to you.
Okie dokie. And Raven just wanted to say hello and thank you. You probably know who Raven is. No. Raven must have lived with Dogs Trust at some stage.
Okay.
Another quick one here. My friend is looking for a Westie to adopt, and it's a doggy died from diabetes. I guess that's probably the same sort of question as Golden Retriever, isn't it? It's potluck. Sometimes a particular breed comes up, and sometimes it doesn't, and you just have to keep trying, I suppose. Yeah. Okay. I think this is going to have to be the last one that we ask. I have a rescue dog, and I all did my daughter's doing a fundraiser. Oh,
thank you! Yay! We are
great.
we're completely reliant on people like you. It's members of the public and doing their little bit. It's lots and lots of people giving us small amounts is what keeps us going. So thank you so much. Very, very grateful.
Listen, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to have to wind things up here. There were a number of other questions there, and a number of questions about dog health and dog behaviour. Please remember that you can send questions to me at PetFix Club anytime you want. Just go to the PetFix Club website, you have to register. It doesn't cost you anything to register. Once you're registered, you click on My Pets, and then you can say, click on a button that says Ask a Vet, and you'll find out. You can just send me a message about anything, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And by the way, Becky, thanks very much for allowing us to have the Dogs Trust training videos on PetFix Club, because they're a great addition to our library of videos. Lots of really good tips there on training dogs. And, you know, keep up the good work. You're doing fantastic at Dogs Trust, and there's just so much positivity about dogs happening just now, and it's just it's a very exciting time. So
it is super. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a great evening,
thank you.
everyone. Bye.
See you again. Bye bye now.
Bye.
Bye everybody. Bye bye.